This panel discussion is Web3 infrastructure serves as a backbone for decentralized applications and services. This panel will explore the Web3 infrastructure, including blockchains, storage solution, and development tools of how they enable the next wave of blockchain innovation. Without further ado, let's welcome co-founder and head of product of 10 Protocol, Case Manny, PhD founder and CEO of Circular Protocol, Gianluca Di Novi, president and co-founder of Kadena, Will Martino, founder and CEO of digital finance group James Wu, and the moderator, co-founder of secondlane.io, Oleg Iavaccio. Let's welcome on stage. Thank you.
Check. Hi guys. Well, thank you everybody to join us. And our panel is called Web3 Infrastructure for Crypto, the way to build decentralized future. My name is Oleg. I am co-founder of Second Lane, probably the largest secondary marketplace for illiquid assets, as in SAFTs, tokens, equity, and so on. And before we go into the discussions, I guess let's take a minute and just go through a round of introductions. Like what you guys are doing, how you're relevant to this topic. Maybe we'll start with you, Gianluca.
Oh, probably the smallest of the project. Circular Protocol, a very young layer 1 blockchain, just another layer 1, designed mostly for compliance with healthcare, but obviously we implemented all the other bells and whistles for crypto and Web3, and yeah, it's a DeSci project.
You do. Thank you.
Cool. Hey, I'm Will Martino, co-founder, president of Kadena. We're a scalable layer 1 proof-of-work blockchain, runs parallel chains under the same hash power. Background, especially relevant to this, I was the tech lead when the SEC founded the crypto working group. And then after that, went to JP Morgan and founded their crypto team and helped to build out JP Morgan Coin version 0. And been working about 9 years on both private and public blockchains.
Hello everyone, my name is James. I'm the founder and the CEO of DFG. So we are a crypto investment firm in the space for 9 years. We manage $1 billion right now. We are early investor into a lot of infrastructure like Solana, Polkadot, Nears. We are seeking for the next kind of big unicorn to invest.
Hey everyone, my name's Case Manny. I'm co-founder of 10. We're an L2 on Ethereum. We're similar to Arbitrum and Optimism. We make Ethereum cheaper and faster. But in addition, we add privacy and data access controls, which we think is one of the key missing pieces. As a team, we previously built a blockchain called R3 Corda, which is the world's most successful enterprise blockchain, genuinely being used in production by the world's largest investment banks. Every bank in Italy uses it to settle payments, trade finance networks, etc.
Great. Well, thank you so much, guys. Allow me to start with a bit of a contradictory question. So this cycle, we're seeing quite a number of polarizing trends, right? On the one hand, we have this institutional frenzy with the ETFs on Bitcoin and Ethereum, hopefully, with other coins as well, where there's not much, technology behind it, right? Like you don't need innovation, you don't need the Web3 there as such. On the other hand, we have the degen frenzy of retail, where people are rushing after meme coins, Telegram mini apps, where again, like the underlying factor, there's literally like you don't need the technology there as such, right? And then you also have a look at the VCs, right? And we have a very good representative over here. And we all know for a fact that for the last couple of years, VCs are very quiet and idle, right? Mostly for the lack of understanding, what projects they would need to support. Where's where's the money? Where does the money have to go? So the question is, why bother? Do we actually need this Web3 decentralized virtual future, or because like the current trends, they don't seem to back this idea?
Let me take this. Let's start with the first thing. You know, Bitcoin, decentralized. My humble opinion is that if there weren't so many other projects following the same footprint, Bitcoin would have been dead already. The fact that there is an overwhelming number of other projects coming after, it's what keeps everything alive, because they know that if they shut down one, there will be another 1,000 following. So that's not the solution. So when you cannot destroy something, you have to try to control it. And that's why one of the trends. The other instead is has a lot to do with the technology life cycle. You know, the technology life cycle is pretty standard behavior for many new technologies, even though this is not a really new technology. There is usually an initial slope, which is called the probing of the market. Then there is the mass adoption, and then there is like a plateau, which is when the technology is mature, is accepted, which is a little bit below, after the deflation. So right now we are at the end of the initial slope, and it's when everybody starts capitalizing on what was built. But now we get to the mass adoption, and the mass adoption is what is going to bring the enterprises into the game, which is the real mass adoption, because you're not going to wait the new Amazon of crypto. You know, you are expecting that Amazon opens Web3 and all the other enterprises. So when they come in with a, you know, an inflow of clients, and that's the real mass adoption. So right now we are playing with what was built while we are building the new paradigms, the new technologies, which is also in line with what was in the previous conversation here.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the migration of traditional finance to integrate with blockchain, it's unavoidable. Just the price savings are far, far too much. I was admittedly hoping that it was going to start to happen about 5 years ago, but now that it's been legitimized with ETFs, we are seeing real proper adoption. We're seeing the case studies come out of people actually moving some of their back office processes to a on-chain, either a public or a private, but usually a public with some guards around it setup, and they're just seeing huge cost savings. So this is a unavoidable step. That said, the whole degen side, the meme coins, that is the incubator for the rapid evolution of the technology. That's where you get money being, invested by, groups of anonymous individuals into kind of crazy, wild, speculative ideas, and some of them really pay out. I mean, zero knowledge is the one that I think of the most, where this is going to be a key piece of critical technology going all the way into 2050, 2060, not only for crypto, but in general. I wouldn't be surprised to see, zero knowledge chips being baked into our phones in the next 10 or 15 years, because the proofs are going to have gotten more efficient. People are going to have settled on exactly what setup we should be using. So both sides are important. Does it sometimes bother the layman who's out in public and sees Dogecoin going crazy or something else going crazy and then blowing up? Sure, but it's an important part of the ecosystem and one that I wouldn't get rid of.
Yeah, I think in this cycle, the adoption is very good, right? Just imagine for the Bitcoin ETF especially, it's a good adoption on the institutional side. And probably meme coin is a good adoption on the retail side. So, if you tell all the non-crypto people about, what's happening in the industry, and Bitcoin and meme coin are probably the two best, ways to educate them, right? It's very hard for them to understand the difference between, for example, Solana or Aptos. So it's just not feasible for them to understand a lot technology behind it. But educating them with Bitcoin and meme coin and others, or NFT maybe, it's actually pretty easy. So it's actually good for adoptions for more people to join, become crypto investor, and a crypto holder. It's actually pretty good. But personally, and for our institutional, so we are not investing in meme coins. So because we are like a long-term holder, meme coin are more like for adoption, for people to trade. I mean, it's just not type of our investment, but we are more willing to be a holder of Bitcoin. But that didn't affect the the truth that meme coin did help the retail adoption in the crypto space. And I mean, for all these kind of infrastructure, I feel the industry become mature. Because just imagine when we make the investment into Polkadot and Solana back to the 2018s, 2019s, and then we suddenly get like somewhere like 50x, 100x during the last bull cycle. It's good for us, right? So it's actually good for us to make this kind of like a very, very good return. But it's also a symbol of the crypto industry is not mature. Because, you can grow, there's missing piece in the last bull cycle about infrastructure, right? So you have to have this layer 1 protocol to fill into that gap. So in that way, this kind of valuation of this layer 1 protocol could be that crazy. So that's the logic. But I feel in this bull cycle, I mean, a lot of things become mature. You are not seeking for 100x investment because that's not feasible. You are more seeking for like a 3 to 5x investment when you are make the right decision. So this is actually a symbol of mature of the industry. So it's actually pretty hard to do the investment in the permit market right now. Of course, you may invest into 10 projects, only one of them become pretty good for your investment. It's unlike the last bull cycle. You are probably going to make 10 investment, and 8 of them are actually going more than 10x. So it's actually a good signal of the market become mature, and it's actually a good way for kind of the industry to grow. But as an investor, like us, like institutional investor or retail investor, just need to understand the difference about the difference between different cycle. Then the industry become mature. You are not expecting like unreal return. You are expecting more like I mean, it can still be like your position equity, but I think you just want to be realistic and getting good returns and be a holder of the the crypto in the long term.
Thank you. So personally, and this is coming from someone who's mainly focused on institutions when it comes to blockchain, I'm a big fan of meme coins. I think we keep talking about onboarding the next billion users, right? And that's happening through meme coins. And why it's important is it encourages people to go out and download MetaMask or Trust Wallet or Phantom or whatever, right? It gets people more and more familiar with the tools that we've built, right? Regardless of how they're using them, they download a wallet, they figure out, okay, this is how private keys work, this is a security phrase, this is how a DEX works, okay, maybe I dig a bit deeper now and understand the underlying technology. And more, what it's doing is just educating people into what this space is all about, what it can do. It's been a while since like a taxi driver talked to me about crypto, but on the way here, someone did talk to me about crypto, and it was about meme coins. So I'm excited for that, right? I just want more and more people to come along, adopt the technology, battle hard in the technology, and we'll just keep building.
Thank you. So if we just go forward and try to visualize this end result, right? So the promised land, that everything is done. We have all the infrastructure elements in the Web3 space. The future is fully decentralized. How does it look? Like, what do we actually have to have there? And maybe, what are the current bottlenecks to actually get us there faster? Can we just maybe start with UCN all the way?
Yeah, sure. So that gives me an opportunity to plug what we're building, which is, so we strongly think the missing component to the current stack is data access control. When we think about any Web2 application, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, eBay, Amazon, one thing they all have in common is the developers or the operators of the server or whatever can determine who sees what, right? I can't see your Amazon orders, you can't see my Amazon orders. If I'm not subscribed to Netflix, I can't view a movie, and so on and so forth, right? And that's what we're lacking in Web3 today. Everyone sees everything. And that was, a manifestation of the original requirements that in order to trust the ledger, everyone should be able to confirm it and see it. But, technology has moved forward with ZK and TEEs and MPC and so forth, right? And now we're in a position where we can start building things that replicate the superpowers that a Web2 server has, right? And I think that's, that's the end goal, right? We need to be able to build something that looks and feels and costs and acts like we see in Web2 today, but with a completely decentralized, censorship-resistant, genuinely open source backbone, and that's Web3. So I think sort of, once we have that missing piece, we'll, in my view, we'll have that complete stack.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think decentralized is always better than centralized things, right? Eventually, whether that refer to money or whether that refer to data, you always want to a decentralized thing to protect all your rights. So that's actually the long-term vision for the crypto space, and eventually it will affect all your daily-to-daily life. For example, let's say imagine like 10 years later or 20 years later, most people do not store their money in their banks. Maybe they store their money in their crypto wallet. So that could be the potential kind of landscape for the crypto in the long term. So it's actually affect your daily life. I'm not specifically referring to the financial industry. It could be others, right? So right now we have a certain kind of wave in the last bull market, like NFT, GameFi, and others. But I think eventually, when we look at this 20 years later, 30 years later, we will see actually a daily-to-daily life change with crypto really being used in our everyday life, and it's really important for every day to kind of use cryptos and really rely on cryptos even for your daily life.
Yeah, I think I have a little bit of a different take in that 20, 30 years from now, we're going to see a lot of blockchain infrastructure be kind of in the background, and you don't really see it. Kind of like we don't really know, what databases our banks run on. I know, like generally speaking, which ones they could pick from, but I don't know which one my bank uses. So in a sort of a similar fashion, I suspect that a lot of it will be in the background. But from an identity point of view, I think that we're going to see something actually very similar to where I live now, which is actually Stockholm, Sweden. They have this thing called Bank ID. And when I try to describe Web3 to older folks in Sweden, I basically just tell them, look, it's Bank ID, but it's decentralized as opposed to being the central API. But Bank ID is this thing where it's this one API and you use it for everything from healthcare to signing in your healthcare account, making appointments, all of your banking, most of the legal stuff, but also for peer-to-peer transactions. And it's a simple app that runs on your phone, and it uses biometrics to effectively sign through the centralized API transactions or authentication that you need to do. And it's why recently one of the things that my company Kadena has released is this thing called SpireKey, which actually is a bit of a hack on the WebAuthn API that's built into everyone's phones, so that you can actually use your phone as a hardware wallet to directly sign crypto transactions without needing a centralized API. The only thing that matters is that there is a URL that it's pointed at, but it doesn't really need to access the URL because that's not how the API works. And instead, you get to use all of the technology that Apple or Google have built out with Passkey and with all of their other kind of new passwordless login credentials systems, and actually be able to sign and authenticate your identity directly without even needing to go and get a hardware wallet, but you get to use all of the security. So I think the main thing that we're going to see in 20, 30 years is that we're going to be doing a lot more passwordless, but it's going to be direct signatures of authentication onto tokens for login and for data access and for the things that we're still having some growing pains around in crypto today.
Yeah, so going back to your assertion, the infrastructure is there. The infrastructure is not there. So there are a number of blockchains, and I promise you there are not enough layer 1 for mass adoption, by far. But there is one other thing. One of the reasons why I built my layer 1 is because I come from healthcare. I'm actually a faculty at Harvard Medical School. And I just realized that there was no layer 1 that could meet regulatory compliance for healthcare adoption, unless you want to use for back office applications. So you need infrastructure that is built for the purpose. Mass adoption comes through enterprises. Enterprises, they deal with regulation all day long, so they need to have the right tools. And regulators need to have the right tools to enforce their regulation. So as all the different regulation frameworks will be rolled out, you also will need all these tools in place. So decentralization, there is still a lot to learn. I mean, the monument to decentralization, Bitcoin, is not decentralized at all. It's all in mining pools now, and becomes more and more hardware centralized. Or it's proof of stake and it's financially centralized. So we still have a lot to learn. We are getting there, though. Before, like I was saying, now we are kind of benefiting of the previous work, but the real tech, the real solutions are being built now for the mass adoption. And hitting the wall of the enterprises will be educated and will be building the right tools finally.
Great, thank you so much. So if we were to talk about the actual bottlenecks, so what are those? Are there like, decentralized storage, cloud compute, RPCs, or it's literally just more of the same L1s, L2s, more of the wallets, more of the, narratives of solutions for the institutionals and for the retail?
It's a bit of everything. I mean, I see a very big issue with decentralized storage for institutions, for example. That's their business, and they're not going to give up the data. It's more like a B2C product, in my opinion. And, again, we are going toward wallet abstraction layer, chain abstraction layer, because obviously what was built until now was really a bit more than a cyberpunk toy, and now needs to become a real usable product. I can't have my grandmother dealing with a wallet and keys and where I store the keys, et cetera, et cetera. But we know your keys, not your coin. So we're getting there, and I think everybody's pretty much working in parallel on this.
Yeah, wallets are definitely something that needs to get fixed. I imagine that most people in the crowd have lost coins because they lost their key at some point. I think almost everyone in crypto has that experience, and then you make sure that you do the correct backups. Again, this is one of the reasons that my company's been building out the Spire key infrastructure, which is totally open source, and it's just a way of being able to leverage these, the UX of the biggest technology companies and the security they built into their phones and their hardware devices, so that we can actually use that directly as a hardware signing device. But outside of that, there's going to be, I think, once we get some more regulatory understanding, which I really, really wish that we had more of, I think it'll clarify which direction needs to get built. Because right now you have a lot of very fast proof-of-stake systems that are also extremely centralized, especially with layer 2. It's one of my biggest concerns, is that the regulators kind of wake up and say, hey, you're doing billions of dollars of transactions, and you have less people in your network of validators than there are payment conduits inside of the Visa network. So if Visa can be fully KYC AML'd, why aren't you? And we're regulators that kind of wake up and figure that out. Then we would need to. I think there would be a lot more pressure to make sure that everything is actually properly decentralized. So some clarity will then hopefully help to figure out, okay, these things are more trading. So trading meaning that you need a much faster settlement time. These things are more settlement. These things are more settlement related. So having 30 seconds to a minute in return for full decentralization is totally worth it. And then you get past the regulatory roadblocks that may or may not get thrown up. Outside of that, it's just going to be a little bit more time. But I think once you get the UX of wallets down and you have the integration from larger institutions, it'll kind of just snowball on top of itself, and we'll get past most of the hurdles that we have.
Thank you, Will.
Yeah, I think there are two issues on layer 1 side. The first is scalability issues. But I think we solved them pretty well. With layer 2s, with other solutions. That's one. The other is about cross-chain solutions, because the user will still face a lot of troubles when you move one token from one chain to the others. So I think these are the two biggest issues. So I think we already made very, very good progress in this circle compared to last circle about solving these two problems.
I think the technology we've built so far is incredible. It still blows my mind that that it just all works, right? And it's all been built in a decentralized way by disparate sort of institutions and groups and projects coming along, and it's all composable and it works, and that's incredible. I think one big step up would be chain abstraction. So we talk about, it's complex downloading a wallet and installing a wallet. What about the next stage where you have to set up a network? You might have to move tokens from one network to another network. So you've got to use a bridge. What type of bridge do you use? Where's the gas for that coming from? And so on and so forth. I think once all of that is abstracted away, so perhaps your UX is, you download a wallet and you choose a dApp you want to interact with, and that's it. Everything else just happens in the background through chain abstraction. I think that'd be pretty powerful. The other is, regulatory clarity is a huge one. We have a very large institution building on our protocol. It's one of the world's largest stock exchanges, and we can't talk about who they are because, despite the fact they really want to use the technology and are actively building on it, they cannot talk about it because there's all this sort of like gray area and none of this regulatory clarity that's required. So I think probably those two things are the biggest step up we can aim for right now.
Awesome, thank you. I think we'll have a couple of minutes. If anybody has a question, please raise your hand. Let's throw a couple of questions from the audience. If not, let me guys, don't be shy. But if not, let me throw you a couple of, let's say, contradictory questions to you. So it's a blitz. Pick whatever answer you want. But yeah, what would you select? Privacy versus transparency?
A proper, the right one for the right place, I'd say. There's no universal answer.
For privacy, my biggest concern right now is that it looks like we're starting another crypto war. And it might be that, the encryption that you need for this stuff is available only to governments. And that's actually more worrying for me than almost anything.
Thank you.
I think transparency is slightly more important than privacy, but privacy is also important.
I think you can have both right now. You can have privacy, but you can have transparency over the compute. You can know with absolute certainty that what I think is happening in the background really is happening without actually having to see that happen.
Second one, scalability versus decentralization.
Decentralization.
We have both, so I don't have to pick.
Awesome.
Decentralization.
Scalability for now, and then decentralize down the line.
Awesome. And the last one, compliant for institutional players versus fully decentralized for DGN tokens and onwards.
Both.
I don't know. I'm a former regulator, so I do believe there's a place for regulation.
Yeah, realistically, compliance.
Yeah, I want to say degens, but realistically compliance.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. I think it was fun and quite insightful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.